Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC in the coming 2023 elections in Nigeria. With a solid background in corporate accounting, consultancy, pro-democracy activism, political career and achievements as a two-term governor of Lagos State and his role as the national leader of the ruling political party, Asiwaju is a great icon in the political and democratic stage in Nigeria. However, with the unethical activities of his political opponents and recent campaign of calumny by these elements, it is now time to set the record straight and put a final end to these false allegations. This is a true story for all Nigerians to know that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu clearly has no prior criminal convictions. The documents released by the Northern District of Illinois headquarters in Chicago on a narcotic trafficking and money laundering in an early 1990s case in Chicago, USA, did not indict Asiwaju. A U.S. federal judge subsequently dismissed the matter with prejudice on the 21st of September 1993, which effectively foreclosed the matter from being litigated again by all parties. In legal terms, a dismissal with prejudice means the ruling is the final judgment in the case. This dismissal prohibits the prosecutor from refiling the charges anywhere. With this foreclosure, these charges cannot be brought against Asiwaju in any other court of law worldwide. On the 4th of February 2003, the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, in response to inquiries by Nigerian Police Force, wrote a letter to the then Inspector General Mr. Tafa Balogun and stated that the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) and the National Crime Information Center (NCIC) had conducted record checks and the results were negative for any criminal arrest records, warrants or warrants for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. With the U.S. clearance of any criminality, this campaign of calumny against Asiwaju has no basis. The recent visit of the U.S. government officials to Asiwaju's presidential campaign office in Abuja, amongst other countries' ambassadors, further consolidates this position of truth. Let's end this distraction to Nigeria's democratic future and focus on supporting the only man whose track records clearly show that he is the most experienced and qualified man to lead Nigeria in 2023. It should not be surprising that Asiwaju is the target of all these insults, abuses and campaign of calumny because he is the man to beat. He is a main contender for the Nigerian presidency because he stands head and shoulders far above any other contender. And because of his political success, his track record of achievements, his acknowledged vision, his remarkable knowledge and his unparalleled courage, he becomes the object of envy and jealousy by perennial political failures and fraudulent interlopers in the Nigerian political space. But Asiwaju, by the grace of God and the well wishes of the vast majority of Nigerians, remains unstoppable. He is fully committed to the renewed hope of Nigerians for a greater nation. Vote wisely. Vote for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president in the 2023 elections.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's still journalist Hangout on TVC News. Let's get into the conversations now. And the first is about the news coming from the governorship tickets in Taraba and Adamawa states, where the last may not have been heard about the fight for the governorship ticket of the All Progressives Congress APC in Taraba and Adamawa states. But as of now, an appeal court sitting in Yola has declared Emmanuel Boacha and Aisha Binani as the governorship candidates of the APC in Taraba and Adamawa states respectively. The court in its judgment set aside a ruling by the High Court nullifying their candidacy, ordering that their names be forwarded to the Independent National Electoral Commission as the APC governorship candidates for both states. But is this the last bus stop? for what has been a revolving legal issue concerning the candidacy of the party. Well, BKO, this is it's been a twist and turn. We've seen it in Akwa Ibom State, where former Minister Akpabio was involved in the drama as well. We don't know if we've heard the last of that. It's always the APC most times caught up in this web. But are we seeing the last of this drama now?
Oh, no one can say that. No one can say that. You know, looking at what has happened in Taraba, Kente, the aggrieved aspirant, has said that he's studying the judgment. So when they get a certified true copy of the judgment, they will decide what to do. You know, at this stage, they cannot, without that certified true copy of the judgment, you cannot file an action. So I'm sure that when they eventually get hold of it, they will decide whether their own case indeed has merit or not. But I just, I can feel the relief of Aisha Binane in Adamawa State, for example. It was an opportunity for a woman to become governor of the state, and she has tremendous support within her party and even beyond, because she's someone who has done a lot of empowerment in those areas. But Nuri Badu decided to go to court because of the issue of overvoting, you know. And I thought that the APC leadership would be able to convince him to drop the case, but the case went on, and Binane lost the first round, but now she's bounced back by winning this particular case. Talking about the Taraba matter, the judge said that the lower court embarked on an academic exercise and delved into issues that did not concern it. That by law, INEC is the agency or body permitted to supervise party primaries, and INEC supervises the party primary and produce a report in respect of that. So as far as they are concerned, as far as the judge was concerned, the lower court delved into matters that shouldn't have bothered itself about. Hopefully, this will be the end of the whole thing. But with politicians, you can't bet. There are more than 600 court cases.
Pending from the primary.
Even the 18 presidential candidates have cases against. There are cases against them. So INEC is in a fix. It doesn't know what to do, because these cases, INEC is joined in many of these cases. How do you deal with that kind of situation? Elections are just a little over 90 days.
Mayor, that's the concern now. 92 days to the general elections, and we're still going to the courts to debate candidacy. Will this have an impact on how ready we are for the elections?
No, not really. But my own problem is that the judiciary is taking decisions that should not be in their purview, because electing officers of state should be the prerogative of voters. But I see now that the judiciary have put themselves in it, that they now sometimes decide who the political officers will be. We shouldn't be. There are governors that are still presently serving. They were not voted for, but were installed by the Supreme Court. And I want to appeal to the judiciary that they should try to, the CJ should try to put his house in order, because most of these problems emanate from the lower courts. Most of the reliefs comes from lower courts, and in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases, by the time it gets to our appeal court, it's overturned. So judges should not get involved in. For example, if it is right that INEC is the supervising body for elections, so why should a judge sit in his chambers and decide that the person that should be the candidate? That shouldn't be so, because they are putting democracy in peril, because you will now see that people get to vote for the people that people want to be their governor or senator or House of Rep, as the case may not be the people that will be there because somebody has been disqualified and all that. And again, I think APC should also put its house in order. In a situation where a Court have said, okay, these are the candidates, if they are serious about winning an election, they should go and prepare for the election that is coming in 92 days. Not that they will now go to the Supreme Court and start dragging the issue again. But the judiciary should stop getting involved in
stop creating confusion. BK, before we move on to the next subject, you mentioned something about the party playing a role in ensuring that some of these cases get settled out of court. In particular reference to the Adamawa issue, where you feel this is an internal issue, both Ribadu and Binani can sit down and the party will decide who gets this ticket without going back and forth to the court. That is a concern. How do you think the party themselves can brace up with just less than 3 months or thereabout to the elections?
No, it's a big problem now, because party leaders are themselves complicit in all these problems. When you deliberately impose certain candidates on everyone, the person who feels cheated will approach the courts. It's just the normal thing. If our parties were behaving in a responsible manner, people won't need to go to court, because these are party issues. If the conflict resolution mechanism of parties were working, look at what happened in Bayelsa, for example. Before that governor was when out the election was eventually disqualified. An individual imposed the candidates on everybody, and within the state they knew that one of those guys, the deputy governorship candidate, did not have a certificate. In fact, he lost. He barely won when he contested for the Senate. PDP lost that matter because it was filed out of time. But you still insisted that he had to be the person.
They pushed their luck again.
Yes. So, in the end, what did we see? Laws must be obeyed. The courts stepped in and kicked him out after he had begun rehearsing for the inauguration.
Less than
what can be more painful than that?
What could be more outing
so this is the thing. Themselves party leaders are complicit. They too support particular individuals, and because of that, they are unable to say, okay, you sit down, we'll find you something, support this person. No, they don't do that. They wait until the case goes to court, and many times those guys even go out of anger, they join another party. President Buhari was warning. He said, let's not do what will cause party members to leave. It has happened in the past, and we lost. We saw it. We saw it happen in Bauchi. We saw it happen in Adamawa. The APC lost those days because they could not resolve the internal disputes within the party. And some left in anger to go and work for the opponent. So until
it's also similar to what maybe happened in Osun State as well, internal wrangling within the party.
Yes, somehow you pay for it. If you can't resolve your issues without people going to court, then but people go to court, I don't blame them. And a lot of them have actually won. Imposing candidates not following the dictates of the Electoral Act is wrong. Look at what happened in Zamfara, for example. The way it's going, the PDP won't have a candidate.
And that will be a loss for everyone.
Yes.
Well, of course, we wait and see how the drama unfolds from the court cases to the political parties. But now let's talk about an interesting development around the Nigerian economy. Reactions have been trailing the unveiling of Nigeria's new Naira note for the higher denominations, which was done by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday. And the president himself is excited about the new Naira notes, saying that the newly designed 1,500 and 200 denominations unveiled by the central bank is fortified with security features that will make them difficult to be counterfeited. The president will express his delight that the new currencies were locally produced by the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting PLC, stressed that the redesigned Naira denominations would help the CBN implement better monetary policy objectives and enrich the collective memory of the country's heritage. Well, let's share that moment with you again as we look at the unveiling of the new denominations.
I announced to you that these redesigned currencies are locally produced right here in Nigeria by our Security Printing and Minting PLC. The new Naira banknotes have been fortified with security features that make it difficult to counterfeit. These new banknotes will help the central bank design and implement better monetary policy objectives. They will also enrich our collective memory of Nigeria's heritage.
Well, Mayor, what's your first impression about those notes?
I do not share the president's optimism. I think it's not redesigned. It's just coloring of the new notes.
Based on what we see on the surface?
Based on what we saw, to me, it's just coloring. You know, somebody told me that when you look at the $100 note, that it was changed from light brown to blue. But I said, if you look at it, you will see there are some features that were added to things that were there. In this one, I think it's just the color that was changed. Everything stayed, based on what I saw, everything still looked the same to me. But my own problem is that, one, the amount of billions that they claim they used to print these new notes, and the billions they used that will be used to destroy the old notes, is it worth it? I don't think so, because what is central bank's argument for these new notes? They said there are a lot of money outside the banking system in worth trillions, and that they want to find a station to mop them up and for them to be able to come in. But my own argument is that those who really have back to the banking system, what they would do is to buy dollars. If somebody has 10 billion, instead of taking the 10 billion back, he will buy dollars and keep the dollars. Because the dollar does not change, and which will also put more pressure on the Naira.
Well, in the last few weeks, since that announcement has been made, we've seen the Naira gain some strength in the foreign exchange market, even in the black market as well. Maybe some gains that could be sustained. But BKO, what's your impression about this note? And you share the president's
Those gains were not sustained. It
It
came
was
to
not- it
about
hasn't gone back.
640. Now we are around 770 again.
Yes.
When
it has
people,
gone
there
back.
are some people who sat on Facebook and they were saying they think I jubilate over little things. No. Before I can jubilate, I have to look at the situation. So the word looked like a reflating of our currency was not based on anything extraordinary. It's just people holding back and say, okay, these dollars that I have, let me not sell it now. Let me wait a little bit. Because it's all about speculation now. They held on to their dollars a little bit. And in just like, let me say 3-4 days, it went back to above 700.
Yeah.
So what are we jubilating about?
Yes.
Went up to above 700. Right now, in my presence, somebody exchanged it for 780.
Yeah.
And as a Nigerian, I will be stupid. I will be jubilating over that. Is that the quantum of money, quantum of Naira currency that the Botswana people exchange their currency with the dollar? Is that the quantum of money that the South Africans put down to exchange for the dollar? You and I know that the South African currency has been consistent. What is it? Their major product is gold. And you know that gold is not subject to the kind of volatility that we experience with petrol or crude oil. So it's consistent. Check out. When Nigerians want to talk, they will mention Ghana. Oh, Ghanaian cedis is the poorest currency in the world. I mean, let's even have shame now. What's wrong with us? So if I want to compare my country with a
It's
country
not even the
now,
poorest.
it's Ghana that I'm looking at. I'm not looking at Egypt. I'm not looking at South Africa. I'm not looking at Rwanda. It is Egypt, that it is Ghana. You see, you see how we are. We have brought ourselves so low that we know where our mates are. You know, in the real sense of the word, our mates, talking about where we were immediately after independence, our mates are Singapore,
yes,
Malaysia, Brazil.
Yes.
Today, Brazilians look at those vehicles, those luxury buses that Marco Polo,
from Brazil.
They are doing them. We are at the point, we are at the same level.
We are ahead of them.
Look at UAE. I've said it before that we donated, Nigerian Airways donated aeroplanes to Emirates. Where are we today? Emirates is one of the best 5 airlines in the world. If Boeing will come up with a new jet plane today, Emirates will be among those who will ask for the highest units. So we are now jubilating because of a marginal, not substantial.
Which is not even substantial. Okay, so, but I mean, when BK will get to this mood,
I don't jubilate over those.
To add to that, I will tell you a story.
Yeah.
And I was embarrassed for Nigeria. I will tell you a story. I was coming from America.
Maybe I think what happened is they just reduced the colors.
Yeah.
There are less colors now than that.
I think the
and then they moved the colors around.
And it will be cheaper to print.
They moved the colors around.
The 1,000 naira note appears to be
no, it's
some purple.
Yes, they moved the colors around.
And there are not. They reduced the one of the currencies that had magenta. They took the magenta.
Maybe they swapped some of the colors.
Yes, now.
But you were about sharing your experience.
Yes, what I'm saying is that I was coming from the US and I passed through Lome to come to Lagos on the Ethiopian Air, and I wanted to buy something at the airport, and I was embarrassed that SEFA is now stronger than the Naira.
Of course.
Before, when we go to Cotonou, we will take 100 about 1,000 of SEFA.
It's partly why food is expensive in the north. People produce, agri-produce, people take them across the border to Niger and all this. I've seen personally, I was in Ethiopia, I saw them driving across the border because they will earn more money.
More money. Before I can earn more money. I can SEFA be stronger than the Naira.
So
before when we go to Cotonou, when you change SEFA, you have so much money, you wouldn't even know what to do with it. Now it's stronger.
Okay, but in all of this, are there any bright spots or are there any wins that the CBN can say it is getting from this process? They've said more enhanced security. Cashless policy will be better implemented.
Those ones are just normal hype. Yes, I agree that CBN will be able to mop the excess money outside the banking system. I concede that. But it is not true that it is politicians who are stockpiling money for elections that are the reason for that money being outside the banking system.
No, there are people who will never put their money.
A lot of people, especially in the rural areas, are not within the banking chain. So it is not that, because the argument is that more people will bring money into it because they have to change their money. But the real people who have stockpiled money, if indeed they really stockpile money, they don't need to come back. They will just use it to buy dollar and keep, because the dollar
will still go up towards the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that the CBN policies would have the desired effect on the Nigerian economy in the coming days. Well, it's still Journalist Hangout, and of course we have more coming up after this break. The federal government and the Nigerian Governors Forum may be set for another round of showdown. That's after the break. Stay with us.
Now I'll take us on to railway infrastructure. Within the period under review, like I said earlier on, the maritime commercial railway services in Nigeria were resuscitated by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, and locomotives and coaches were procured for that purpose. The Warri Ajokuta rail line, the Abuja-Kaduna commenced operation in July of 2016, just about 1 year after this administration came into being. The Warri corridor started commercial operations in April of 2021, while the Lagos-Ibadan double-track standard gauge began operations in June 2021.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I need a room to rent in your house.
Okay, where do you work?
I'm a nurse.
That means you won't owe me rent. Congratulations, young lady. You have yourself a house.
Well, thank you so much, sir. So, how much is the rent?
90,000 naira. Oh, but wait, where are you from?
I am from Akamata.
Akamata what? Akamata in my house? If you know how you got into my house, please get out right away. My spirit and that of Akamata people don't have anything to do together.
Sir, what have I done?
Your people from Akamata are known for bad things. That is what they represent, and you can't live in my house. Just get out right away.
What's going on?
Leave my house, young lady. Yes, our differences extend to our languages, culture, food, and even belief. But we are bound together by the cord of love. With one heart, with one voice, we will make Nigeria a hub of greatness, a place where the people live as one.
This message is brought to you from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
Welcome back. It's still journalist Hangout, and of course we're looking at trending current affairs issues across the length and breadth of the country. Well, there may be a political storm brewing at the cup between the Nigeria Governors Forum and the presidency over the planned privatization of 10 power plants under the National Integrated Power Project, NIPP. Governors of the 36 states, through a statement by the chairman of the forum, Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State, unanimously rejected the sale of the power plants, revealing that the NGF have instructed its lawyers to approach the Federal High Court, which have already issued a court order restraining all parties in the suit from taking any further action that will render the outcome of the motion on notice seeking for interlocutory injunction nugatory. Well, a lot of legal back and forth now, but this is between the governors and the federal government. BKO, what exactly is the subject matter? What's the contention? Because the statement by Governor Tambuwal is just seeking that the federal government should stay away from the plant sale.
Yes, you know, even before now, I think it was the House of Reps that said, look, we are not in support of the attempt to sell these farms. And it's all down to transparency, because look at the privatization of the power sector that was done during the Jonathan years.
Jonathan administration, yeah.
It remains a mess. It remains a mess. We've not come out of that one. We are trying to figure out what to do. And then they've shortlisted 16 companies, 16 farms again. So the governors, they are also part owners of these things.
Of course.
Some states built this thing from the scratch, all by themselves. I know a state, for example, where because the federal government could not pay the contractors, they left. And when they left, the state government took it over. That's what happened in Kwara. The NIPP stuff in Kwara. They were not paying the contractors, and they left in annoyance. Bukola Saraki brought them back and completed it. But what do we have? A state uses its resources to build a power plant, and then you discover that the law does not favor even your own state in terms of getting the end product of what you have spent billions to do. Because the law says is once you generate above, I think, 50 megawatts, it goes straight into the national grid, where it can then be shared
to everybody. So
you will find that Ilorin, for example, may actually not have as much electricity as Kishi in Oyo North, which is not far away from Kwara. But the people of Kwara that own the power plant, that use their resources to construct the power plant,
and not benefit.
What's it called too? I know that Akwa Ibom too built power plants. So these power plants, these power plants, government cannot, the federal government cannot wholly take decisions about them. You've got to sit with the states and say, okay, this is what will happen. In any case, what the law says is that whatever money the federal government makes shall be shared between the 3 tiers of government. So they've got to discuss even that. What happens if we sell what will come to us? So those governors want to be sure that, look, at the end of the day, they don't feel cheated and all that. So government has to sit with them and see how, look at even the matter of $480 million that they have been fighting the Attorney General for. Governors are saying, look, you can't pay those consultants. They didn't even do anything.
All right, Mayor, let's look at the timing of this. Most of the governors, about 28 or 27 of them, their terms will be ending in the next few months. Even the current administration is wrapping up. This sale, if the federal government still insists they want to push it through at this, the eve of the end of the administration, do you think there's some...
No, it can't work.
There's some interest...
No, it can't work.
Beyond
it can't work.
The state interest?
It has to do with our lack of federalism. We have this KBC mentality in the federal government, thinking that, oh, the federal government can do whatever it likes. It's not supposed to be so. Things that are jointly owned cannot be disposed of by one party alone. That's what the governors are saying. The federal government doesn't own those plants. It's jointly owned. So if it is jointly owned, they have to sit with governors to take decisions. But in most times, they don't do that. We have money in maybe sovereign account, or we have money in SS Good account. The federal government will just wake up one day and decide that, oh, this is what we want to do with the money. The money that statutorily belongs to the 3 tiers of government, federal government will just wake up and say, this is what we want to do. If you remember, that is why the governors always go to court, to go to Supreme Court, to say, please, help us interpret the law. And I want to commend the governors for doing that, for going to it, because the ones that we have seen have shown that the federal government is not capable of doing these things transparently. A lot of problems we saw later that even all these discos and gencos that were given out almost at ridiculous prices, without due diligence, without people who can invest money in it. And then the federal government has to now start paying some money to subsidize, and we have not been able to move forward.
You spent 2.9 trillion.
Yes. To subsidize things.
Intervention fund.
Yes, that you sold. But because there are no transparency and all that, because some people will just sit down and take decisions. So if they allow them to do this again, we'll have that problem. Government is a continuum. Whether the governor is there, the next governor will take over, because it's a governor's forum. So it's a body of governors. So whether their time is going to expire in May or not, what is important is that the governors, the body of the governors through the governors forum have decided that the federal government cannot just take decisions that affects everybody alone. And I support them.
Okay, let's see how that political storm would, of course, play out between the governors and the federal government. It's not the first time. They've always had their issues to resolve, and they've always find a way to resolve their issues. Well, let's talk about the political build-up to the elections. It's 92 days, and like a wrestler charging into the ring, ready to defeat his opponent, the Independent National Electoral Commission is boasting of its preparedness to deliver a free, credible, and each-free elections come 2023. The chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, in a statement of reassurance, said INEC has already implemented 9 out of the 14 activities listed in the timetable and schedule for next year's general election. The chairman noted that the 4 areas of challenge identified by the commission are security, campaign finance, technology, permanent voters card PVCs, and assurances that Nigerians' votes will count on election day is also receiving topmost attention. Well, we must commend the INEC chair, Professor Mahmood Yakub, who has consistently restated the Commission's preparedness and readiness to deliver a free and fair election. But it appears like there's still a long journey before that promised land can be achieved. The the electronic input to the election is a concern. How will INEC monitor and track party finances is another concern. Is INEC having too much on their hands as we build up to the election?
I think that INEC should not bite more than it can chew. The issue of monitoring campaign finances, we don't have, I don't think the INEC has even got the tools to do that. Even in advanced countries of the world, politicians still find a way to bypass it, you know. Now, to come to Nigeria, for example, how are you going to tell, beginning even with the primaries of the parties, so much money gets spent. How can INEC, for example, say, okay, we'll stop this? INEC was also boasting that it will put an end to, what's it called, vote buying. I don't know how INEC, that does not control the armed forces, can stop vote buying. The politicians have found a way to even begin to buy votes a day to the election, or even weeks to the election. We saw what happened in Osun. Some people got rams, some got cows, so that they can do Ileya with it ahead of the voting proper. So they had already bought their conscience weeks to the election. So how do you stop such a thing? And on election day, we saw young girls, after being paid, they did Snapchat to say, they've given us money. They had no shame. Yes, yes, they didn't say anything wrong about that. How many people have they got? Even the EFCC that was boasting the other day at the presidential primaries of the two major parties that, look, we are here, we've established our presence here. Did they make any arrest? Did they make any arrest? Somebody got money from the presidential primaries and even went to distribute in his constituency. Did you arrest him for taking the money in the first place? Yes, he was very generous. He went to his constituency and donated to the needy. But to have even taken the money was wrong, ab initio. Yes, but was he arrested? His pictures were splashed on newspaper pages.
We have no further,
no action was taken. So how do they even stop people from buying people's conscience on election day? They've not got the wherewithal. They've not got all it takes to do that. So boasting that you are going to stop it, I don't see how they can do it. Politicians will bribe law enforcement agents, and those law enforcement agents will help them to buy people's conscience. So in my view, what they should concentrate on is what they're already succeeding at, making the election more and more difficult to compromise. And that is through these beavers that they are doing, you know, reduce as much as possible the human interference in the system.
In the process, yeah.
If you can do electronic accreditation and ensure that everybody is electronically accredited. That will be fine. But we know that even many INEC officials themselves,
they will even be the ones
bypass INEC. Many elections will happen some places. What the law says is where elections are characterized by violence, you should not return votes from those places. But we've seen INEC returning officers return votes from voting centers where violence characterized the exercise. They know I'm saying the truth about them. You know? So this is the thing.
Mayor, let me have your thought on the other areas. I mean, Vicky has rightly highlighted some areas where INEC can only back but can't bite in literal terms. But let's talk about areas where INEC have at least direct influence on the voting. Voting. How can they address that?
Yes. I have to commend the Professor Yakubu, because there have been an improvement in the process, which is nice. But leaving monitoring campaign funds and those things, they don't even have the wherewithal to do that. What they should concentrate on is to make sure that beavers work, because beavers is more or less like biometrics. it tells who you are. If you insist that people cannot vote unless they go to these biometrics through beavers, for what we will have achieved is that you will reduce rigging substantially, because the key element in rigging is what they call ECOMOG, and that is, you prior to election, you try to gather as many PVCs as possible, and on election day, because it's just manual identification process, you take people from one polling unit to another, so somebody can vote several times. They call them ECOMOG. You just move them around into some polling units, and when they vote in this polling unit, they move them to another. They have this chemical that they use to clean their hand, and they move to another place. But with Vivas, you cannot do that, because apart from your top, yes, and then your face recognition, you must be identified through biometrics who you are. That is what qualifies you to vote. That's so. INEC, instead of running after what people are spending or whether there is vote buying or not, let them leave that. Let them concentrate on making sure that they tidy up Vivas very well, so that on election day, the Vivas will work and be seen to work. Two, they must solve the problem of undervoting, especially in the north, underage voting, especially in the north, because in previous elections, we have seen people who were kids, but we won't see more. The Beavers will remove that, because, like I said, that is part of the ECOMOG culture, where you will get the PVCs ready. So what you just need to do is just to get some people and line them up to say, okay, collect PVCs, go and vote. But they can't do that now, because Beavers will eliminate that. But INEC should look at that and see how they can clean up their own house and reduce to the barest minimum. It's almost impossible, but reduce to the barest minimum election officers being compromised. So those are the things they should work on, because if you put everything in place and the election officer is compromised, things will not work.
Another issue is collection of PVC, BKO. Yes, in the last few months, we've seen a massive rally or mobilization for people to go and register for the voting process, but many of them do not have their PVCs yet. What should INEC be expected to do between now and the next 92 days?
Well, there is a court case that permitted people to still be able to vote until 90 days to the election. Maybe if that judgment holds true.
Okay, BKO, just hold your thought for a second. We have Taiwo from Ogun State calling in to join the show. Good evening to you, Taiwo. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Welcome. Let's have your thoughts quickly.
I'm so interested in what you are saying, and I believe that the discussion is. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, please make your thoughts quickly. Make your contributions quickly.
Only one point. You know, the issue of overvoting need to be addressed, because that's another way by which the politician can easily reach.
Okay. All right. I think Taiwo, thank you very much. Your concerns on your suggestion that INEC should address overvoting. BKO, you were talking about PVC and the court injunction, which enables voters to vote.
Yes, I'm saying that if that judgment holds true, a few more people can actually register at the last minute. I know that this year we've had more young people getting involved in the process. But my main concern, when INEC boasts about its readiness, my main concern is the politicians and the steps that some of them are taking to even sabotage INEC. Why, for example, did we have those fires in Osun and in Ogun, where beavers, PVCs and beavers machines were destroyed? You can imagine if people were to go to Kano to carry out such attacks so close to the election. Do you know how many people will be disenfranchised? This is the reason our security agencies must police INEC facilities sufficiently. Otherwise, these elections will be compromised by people who already can see that they cannot win, but would rather ensure that nobody wins if they can't win. So they must police. If you are destroying beavers machines, destroying people's unclaimed or uncollected PVCs, how are people going to get involved in the election? That's a lot of people potentially disenfranchised. Although INEC said that they are going to replace those ones. But they can only replace if this thing happens in isolated cases. But if the trend of attacking INEC facilities continues, because we've had dozens of INEC facilities attacked in the last 2 years. If that trend continues, especially close to the election, and we don't want to see that. So how individuals will just wake up on their own to say they want to go and burn INEC office. It's still politicians who are behind this.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin to wrap up on the show this evening. Mayor, what's your own now? What will be what you expect INEC to fix between now and the next 90 days?
The issue of voting, that's a law to that effect. In any polling unit that is overvoting, it is null and void in that unit. That is, the law is there. So that solves the problem of overvoting. What we should concentrate on is, one, security. Like it says, security. We should look at INEC offices and materials as security, national security issues. So they should be given adequate security for both materials, because those are the things needed. The beavers machines are very important.
So for you, security and technology,
yes, security and beavers, those are the areas.
And of course, BKO has also emphasized on the need for PVCs to be safely protected, and of course given to distribute them to the voters.
In some parts of the north, they found a way to get these things across to people through leaders or some clans, leaders or some wards. So those who register, they get their attention. It's a lot easier, because what is the point in keeping those PVCs in INEX offices where they can be burnt and all that? If you know the pains that people went through
to register,
to even register and get.
So INEC have a lot of work on their hands. Beyond giving us the assurances, they need to get to the work and ensure that we are really ready for the polls. Well, that's been the size of the show this wonderful Thursday evening. I've been hanging out with Mayor Akinpelu and Babajide Kolade Otitoju on the show. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11. But join us on Sunday for an expanded episode of the program. It runs from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30, and that's Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Emmanuel Akindebuwa. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) in the coming 2023 elections in Nigeria. With a solid background in corporate accounting, consultancy, pro-democracy activism, political career and achievements as a two-term governor of Lagos State, and his role as the national leader of the ruling political party, Asiwaju is a great icon in the political and democratic stage in Nigeria.